Good afternoon, everyone. So Coach Herm Edwards and I met last night, and then we met again this morning, and we determined mutually that it was appropriate for Herm at this point to step away from his duties as the head coach of Sun Devil football. We had to acknowledge that there has been a pattern, unfortunately, of when some of the major opportunities were presented, we did not step up and perform at the level we all desire in terms of taking advantage of those opportunities. So we have named as our interim for the remainder of this year, Sean Aguano. Sean is very, in our opinion, deserving of this opportunity. His fellow coaches fully supportive of him, so we don't anticipate any additional staff changes. Communicated with President Crow on this plan, and he was fully supportive of me implementing this change at this time. And so we are looking forward to starting the Pac-12 season. That future begins now. Very frankly, our responsibility is to try to infuse new energy, new urgency into the program. Toughest day of my professional career, no question about it, to have to separate from Herm Edwards, but we've known each other a long time and we've always been very honest. We did not get it done here at the level that any of us aspired to. And when it's time for change, you make the change. And so we feel like for this current team, for our future, for our staff, for our university, this is the appropriate change at the appropriate time. And so we're going to look to get energetic, more urgency. Fresh leadership is frankly the first step in this process. I'll take any questions.
Michelle Driver, Arizona Public. Obviously, you touched on your long association with Coach Edwards Ray. At what point did you really start thinking that this might be a possibility? Was it obviously maybe before last night or the start of the season, the off season?
You're always thinking ahead and looking for improvement. And so I've been looking for off season, and certainly in these first few weeks, for hope, for additional discipline, for additional stepping up in the bright moments and really delivering. And some of that was not occurring, very frankly, reverting back to some of the penalties and just not making big plays at big moments. At the end of the day, no matter what you say, the head coach is responsible for developing an environment and a culture and an atmosphere where those things happen. And when you don't, you have to acknowledge it and be prepared to make tough decisions and move on.
John Marshall, AP. What went into the decision to have her come back this season, and what did you consider firing him after last season?
No, we were 8-5 and didn't consider firing after last season. There were a lot of clubs in the country that wish they'd had 8 wins, notwithstanding the fact that it was a disappointing 8-5. We were still 8-5, and we had a lot of faith and confidence that with the right coaching staff and with some of the folks that we were anticipating bringing in, we would have an opportunity to really bounce back. And so we were looking to do that with the leadership we had and thought we had an opportunity to do that, and it did not materialize.
Doug Howard, The Athletic. Ray, Herm talked often about how Tony Dungy groomed him to become a head coach in the NFL. He tried to do the same here with Antonio Pierce. In your opinion, in doing so, did he become too detached? Did Herm become too detached by giving too much freedom to Antonio Pierce and other assistants?
Well, you'll have to make your own judgment on that and ask Herm that. I don't know if he got too detached. Is there an opportunity to delegate as opposed to abdicate? Yes. Did he delegate? I believe so. Did he abdicate? No. I don't know if he became too detached, Doug. Only Herman Antonio maybe can answer that for you.
Chris Carlson of Source Ray. The timeline for replacement, whether or not the search firm will be involved, what are the most important criteria, and will you be making the ultimate decision on the replacement?
Those are going to be things to be determined because we just did that today. I will certainly be involved. Don't know what the format, the structure will undertake. Right now, we're focused on right now. And so that search will be a national search. I anticipate it will be exhaustive because I know there's going to be great interest in the position. And very frankly, Sean Aguano will have a chance to be considered depending on how the rest of the season goes. But we will be looking to have a fit with someone, very frankly, who is probably going to be a little more in tune with the evolving change and landscape in college athletics. I can tell you it's changing, as you know, rapidly. And you got to have someone who is willing to take all that additional change on because it's going to continue to change. So you got to have that energy, that spirit. And very frankly, you might have to have the youth to deal with this new breed, if you will.
Jordan Ham, Sports 368. Sports 368. What was it about Sean Aguano that made him the choice for the interim coach?
Well, he's done a heck of a job, as you know, with our running backs. He's a long-time, very respected high school coach here. I think he's got the respect of not just all the players, but certainly all of the current staff, and felt that he would be a good burst of that energy and urgency that we needed.
Brad Denny, 3TV CBS Live. Do you feel the program is in a better spot now than when you were at this table 5 years ago?
Absolutely. We've made strides, certainly on the academic front and also in training and development, but we haven't made nearly the strides we had aspired to and we had anticipated. And so, yes, we're in better shape. Are we where we want to be? No. Do we regret the decision? No. Do we regret that we haven't had more success? Yes.
All right, DevilsDigest. I know that you're about to embark on an exhaustive search for a head coach on all levels, college, NFL, what have you. But the fact that no set allegations that NCAA has not been presented yet, and we know more than likely there will be sanctions, if not severe sanctions, following that. How much does that ultimately handcuff you as you embark on this exhaustive search for probably the most important position in this athletic form?
Well, you won't like the answer, but I don't comment on active open investigations, and I'm encouraged not to.
Ken Summers with the Arizona Republic. Just to clarify, will you be leading the search?
You don't need to clarify that. I will be involved because I didn't say whether I was going to lead or not, but I certainly will be deeply involved to be determined whether we do a committee or retain a search firm.
And second part, what do you think you learned from doing this 5 years ago that can apply today as you go forward?
You can always do better.
Anybody else?
Ray, when you met with Herm last night, was he at a point where he felt like there needed to be change, or could you shed any light on how that conversation went?
I'll leave it mostly private, but Herm and I have known each other a long time, and we've never sugarcoated anything. And so we were both very disappointed with the performance last night, and very frankly, the lack of determination and energy and urgency, and that was something we both had to acknowledge, and that was part of our conversation. And when you get to that point, then you have to honestly ask yourself, are we going to be able to turn it around? And very frankly, I think we both agreed that it's a different world out here. It's hard to do, and maybe it's just time for change.
Could you shed light? I believe Herm was under contract through 2024. The details of far as that goes?
To be determined. Again, this just happened last night and today. We haven't advanced into all the technical, financial, legal deals, ramifications. Herm did not resign. He was not dismissed. We agreed to a mutual relinquishment of duties, and we'll have to work through what all of that means at the end of the day in terms of what the contract and the lawyers, et cetera, because truthfully, those things do matter. And you know, agents are out there and attorneys are out there, both from the institutional point of view and the agents and the clients. So you have to work through those things, Doug, being very frank.
And just one more if I may. Marvin Lewis and Brian Billick have been involved in the program. Obviously they have relationships with you, but they're also very close with Herm. Will they still stay in their current roles?
All the coaches, we anticipate staying in their current roles. Yes, I think everybody is understanding that we've got 9 games. We got a conference and hopefully a 10th game if we can pull it all together. And they're rolling up their sleeves because they want to support this team first and foremost. But Sean Aguano's got everyone's respect, and they want him to be successful. So I think you'll see all hands on deck from Sean's peers to help him be successful. Help his team be successful for what we have remaining for the conference season.
Ray, I understand you're not going to talk about the investigation, but there has been a lot of coaching turnover in the last year or so with the staff, losing 5 assistant coaches, resigning or otherwise. And how much of a factor do you think that was, coupled with replacing coordinators multiple times and trying to have some sort of sense of stability within what you're doing operationally, and how important will it be moving forward to try to minimize that?
I'm going to tell you again, I'm not commenting on the investigation and how it impacts us, if it impacts us, and how it may impact us going forward, to be determined. But I'm not talking about the investigation.
Okay, but irrespective of that, yet coaching changes. So how much do you think that had an impact on kind of preparing for this season, the results at the beginning of the season?
Impact on who?
The football success or lack thereof, based upon having new coordinators, both sides of the ball, earlier this year.
Yeah. Well, still to be determined. We've played 3 games. We got a conference season of 9 coming up. Ask the question at the end of the season.
But did that have an impact on what led to today's events? The fact that you had a lot of just different kind of things happening with transitions of coaches?
No, that stuff happened months ago. That's been behind us.
Last question.
Without getting into specifics, Ray, would it be fair to say that the job search now is more challenging than it was 5 years ago when you did hire them?
Well, I'm not sure that's the case, because there are a lot of folks who think this is a very coveted job, and very frankly, there's going to be a lot of interest. So I don't think I would agree it's going to be any more difficult. It may be. I think you have a lot of different types of candidates. I think there's a understanding that if you're going to come in and be a college head coach now, particularly in football or basketball, men's basketball, you got to be willing and ready to deal with NIL and transfer portals and recruitment inducements and all the other things, a conference realignment and all the threats and the concerns that are expressed there when you're talking about recruiting, et cetera. So I think there's going to be, I don't know what the word is, if it's going to be a more intellectual, a more business type head coaching candidate coming in, a more innovator. I don't know, but I think there's going to be a different set of characteristics that are going to come through some of these coaches. The ones who are really into analytics and all that data stuff. I think you're going to see more of that coming in onto these jobs.
Thank you, everybody. Can I ask you one last question? When you made this hire, a lot of people in the media termed it as an experiment. You never did. You were very confident that the guy that you were bringing in would elevate the program. You mentioned it was the hardest day of your career. How surprised are you to be here less than 5 years later with this message?
Well, you always hope that new ideas and innovations work when you think you needed to make a real change at the time. And I thought a new way of approaching and training and developing and recruiting was needed here. So no, I don't regret at all because I believed it was the right thing to do then. But I also believe that when you come to a point where you realize that you're not always right and perhaps it's not working at the level you want and you don't have the patience to wait because the world is changing really fast out there, then you make changes. And I think that's what we've done.